Hey Booktube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw, here as promised to do the second half of my library loot. Enough chit chat, let's talk about the books. Sorry, forewarning, I have the hiccups. I've been trying for the last 15 minutes to get rid of the hiccups because I didn't want to film with them, but that just doesn't seem to be happening and I had to get this video filmed, so my apologies in advance. I'm sorry to think I have raised a timid son by Kent Russell is a piece of journalism that focuses both on Kent Russell's kind of travel and investigatory experiences and also his wrestling with his relationship with his father and this kind of concept of malehood. I was a sociology major in college, so gender as a whole is something that I find super interesting, but especially the male gender, the construct of maleness and how we do that here in America and what that means. That's always been a subject that's super interesting to me. And this is one of the more recent kind of essay collections that deals with that. Essentially, Kent Russell goes on investigatory journalism trips to pretty much every bunch of different places. He goes to festivals, he goes inside motorcycle clubs, financial groups, just as part of his job as a journalist. But he kind of tells us these anecdotes and frames them in a way that then goes back to this kind of larger relationship wrestling that he's doing with his father. And so I just heard it described by multiple people as a really good book for that, for the examination of gender in our current modern 21st century. So I picked it up. And I'm so excited about this next book. It's super dorky, but it's called The Oregon Trail, A New American Journey by Rinker Buck. I first heard about this over on the Bookright channels, and I was so obsessed with playing the Oregon Trail, the video game, when I was growing up. My favorite Dear America diary was Caddy Stanton, who was the Oregon Trail girl. I wrote so much bad ripoff fiction between the third and fifth grade about people on the Oregon Trail. This is basically about a man and his brother, I think it is. Yeah. Accompanied by 3 cantankerous mules, his boisterous brother Nick, and an incurably filthy Jack Russell Terrier named Olive Oil. And they are going to go the Oregon Trail. They head out from St. Joseph, Missouri, and are heading to Baker City, Oregon, and they legit do it in a covered horse and carriage. And they just did, this is a recent, within the last decade, they've done this. And they took off in a covered horse and wagon and took the old Oregon Trail. They faced copperheads and disease and rain and mountains and all of those things that were faced on the actual Oregon Trail. Cocking the wagon and floating it, huh? Who always thought that was a bad idea? Always ford the river, guys. Always ford the river. But yes, it's a bit chunky. The font's of a pretty normal size, so it may take me a little bit to get through, but I'm hoping it's just going to be so damn addicting, it won't take as long as it seems like it's going to take. All right, on to the fiction. These first 2 are for the Booktube SFF Awards. The first one is The Strange Library by Haruki Murakami. That's the September short fiction read. This is a very interesting book in terms of its design. That's the first thing that stuck out to me. Because if you look at it, you lift this flap and then you lower this flap, and this is the actual first page of the book. The library was even more hushed than usual is the actual first sentence. Which I didn't even realize. I just blew past this cover page and then got to the inside and was like, oh, the story was actually on the first page. But yeah, then there's these full color illustrations. As you can see, the font is really big and the spacing is really weird, so it shouldn't take me very long. Basically, a boy, a girl, and a sheep man are trapped in a scary library. And it's gonna be weird because it's Murakami. But yeah, I just picked it up and I was very delighted, but also slightly not weirded out because it doesn't bother me, but just, yeah, interested to see such kind of an interesting book design. Any of my book design peeps out there who want to take a stab at explaining why that would be packaged that way, or if there would be a reason for it to be packaged that way, I would love to hear your thoughts. And the other one for the Booktube SFF Awards is the Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. Picked this up forever ago, but didn't actually ever read it like I wanted to. This is the story about a goblin boy who doesn't ever think he'll be king because of like the line of succession. But then, of course, something happens to everyone above him in the line of succession. All of a sudden, he's king. That seems to be like a common theme in some of the books I've been reading. This isn't actually on the Booktube SFF award list till October, but it's fairly popular at my library, so I wanted to go ahead and get my hands on it when I could and give it a read before that time comes. And then we have the books that I got just because they look fun. The first one is Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue. Reading Uprooted gave me just enough of the fairy tale itch, so to say, that I wanted to get to some retellings. And I've heard really nobody does, if you're looking for like LGBT gender, like bent, skewed retellings of fairy tales, from what I hear, Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue is the place to go. There are 13 short stories in here, but the margins seem to be fairly small and the print seems to be fairly large. So I'm thinking it probably won't take me super long, but I may just dip in and out of it because they're short stories, and that's kind of my favorite way to do short stories. And then I also have, excuse me, Palimpsest by Catherine M. Valente. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because of the Fairyland series, which starts with the girl who navigated Fairyland in a ship of her own making. I'm looking around me because I used to have it, but I don't. I think I gave it to a friend of mine. I don't see it on my shelves. But anyway, Palimpsest is literally about a city that you go to when you have sex. And then the map of that city is like drawn on you after you finish having that sexy encounter. But like the city itself is full of like crazy shit, like lion priests, living genies, underground magic. As you can see, this woman has been kind of like semi-tattooed with a map. So it's just supposed to be really weird, but in the adult vein of really weird. I loved her like young adult and middle grade version, so I'm hoping that if she brings any kind of magic, the same kind of magic to this one that she brought to her Fairyland books, that it should like end up being absolutely phenomenal. And then we also have The Captive Condition, and The Captive Condition is about, let's see, actually I don't know what this is about. Oh yeah. I'm like reading and I still don't know what it's about. Basically, it sounds like a man going to college starts encountering like creepy things. Sure, why not? I heard about it from Liberty at Franzen Comes Alive. Franzen Comes Alive is her tiny letter. I will see if I can find a link to it and link below so that you guys can all subscribe. But she sends one out every week, talking about all the books that she's read and gotten from publishers. She got this one and in parentheses wrote like yay in huge capital letters, and she reads so voraciously that anything she specifically calls out as being like interesting, I put on the holds list. So that's what I did with The Captive Condition. No idea what it's about. We'll see. I'll let you know. Then we have, Saint Maisie by Jamie Attenberg. This is another book that I am super excited about because it reminds me a little bit of The Girls at the Kingfisher Club, which by Genevieve Valentine, which is a young adult book set in like the flapper era, 1920s, as is this one. This one is literally about Maisie Phillips, who works as a ticket taker at a movie theater, but she's like got so much more to her life than that. It's kind of one of those stories of her past and how it brought her to the present. She's supposed to be very plucky, very energetic, very girl power, even considering like the constraints of the time at which the book is set. And I just love the girl's name Maisie. I just think that's a beautiful color. Girl's name. It's written by Jamie Attenberg, who wrote The Middle Scenes, which I also really liked. I read that in 2011, 2012, something like that. But I'm really, really, really excited to get to St. Maisie. And lastly, I have a book called The Flicker Man by Ted Kosamada. And I thought when I first checked this out that there was a book based on this, like there's a movie based on this book, and I'm pretty sure there was a movie called The Flicker Man, but from what I remember, it doesn't have anything to do with this book. This book is basically about a scientist who discovers basically kind of like the meaning of existence, this new reality, this like huge scientific ethical metaphysical breakthrough. And it's not about the story of him finding it, it's about what happens after he finds it, and he has to like wrestle with this, with the politics. He has to wrestle with what it does to his career, because before he makes this discovery, his career is on a downturn, and then he makes this discovery, so now he has all this fame that he has to deal with. It's basically kind of like Stephen King and Stephen Hawking like have a baby and wrote this book. So that's enough of a sell point for me. I'm really excited. I don't get a lot into like the science-y fiction, darker science-y fiction stuff super often, so I'm really, really excited to see how that pans out. And that, folks, wraps up my library loot. Those are all the books that I've brought home recently from the library, and I'm so glad I got the chance to share them with you. As always, comment down below to let me know if you've read any of them or where I should start when I am looking for the next book to pick up from the pile. And otherwise, like, subscribe, and catch me around the internet. Bye, guys.